Hello guys, in this video we will dive in technical round interview questions with JavaScript, and those questions got asked into uh, the interviews like React.js interviews, Node.js interview, and so currently TypeScript is also one of the part of it. So even though for TypeScript you can refer these questions since the logic would be the same you will be using, right? Basically technical round comes as a second round. In first round you got checked for the theory, and in second round interviewer expects something from you. So yes, we will try to understand the expectations of interviewer, and after that we will be solving the interview questions. So in interview, interviewer gives some data and he wants us to apply some logic on it. Now here is the thing. What interviewer want to see over there is how you do the iterations and how much control you have on that iteration. Now as you can see, as interviewer gives us data, mostly that data is in array form, and if data is in array form, then we can use ES6 facilities to iterate data, like map or filter. But the problem with this map and filter is that we cannot have control over the iterations. Okay, you cannot directly break the loop using a map and a filter. So for that we must know the basic looping mechanisms, for loop and while loop. Okay, so in for and while loop you can use a break or you can directly change the index, and this is how you will get the control over the iterations. So this is the expectation of the interviewer, that interviewee should know how to iterate through the data so he can produce the desirable output. Okay, so let's start with interview questions. The simple and repeatedly asked question in interview is nothing but reversing the string. This is the question. Interviewer usually give you any string. Let's say let str is equal to whatever the string it may be. Okay, and interviewer asks you to reverse this string, but condition is without using any reverse functions. So we have to use for loop only. So or by using basic loop. Okay, so how can we do that using a basic loop? So in such a kind of questions where we are getting the string, and the data structure we usually use or we usually have is nothing but the array. So here first thing should be very clear to us is that this string is nothing but the array inside the JavaScript. First of all, whenever interviewer asks you any questions, try to create function for that. So let's create a function. Let's call it reverse. Now in this function, let's say we are accepting one string. We need to accept the string as a parameter. So now we want to reverse this string. What we can do, we can reverse from last to first. So for that we can use for loop like this. In for loop, the index should be start from the last index of the array. So for that what we can do, we need to know the length of the array. So we have string as a we getting from the arguments. On that, if we use length, then we'll get total length, and since we have string as an array which start from 0, we will put -1 over there. Okay, so whenever we have 5 words inside the string, and if you consider the indexes, so first index of the first letter would start from the 0, so total index going to be the 4, like that. That is why we took -1 there. Then after that we want, for every iteration we want to put the conditions. So in that condition I should be always greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so we want to iterate till 0, so that is why this is the condition, and at every iteration we will be decreasing the index of the array. Now the thing is that now we are getting index at every iteration. Now we need to store that alphabet or that character at that particular index. So for that what we can do is we can create one variable. Let's say this variable is result. Now we can initiate this result variable as array. Whenever we do the iteration, we will store that character of that index inside the result. For that, I'll use push method, and in push, since we have the string, and inside the array if we pass I, so it will rotate, or it will iterate from last to first, and this will be stored inside this array. Okay, so now the thing is that now we have the array with the characters which start from last to first. Now we need to return array as a string. So for that we will be using one method which is nothing but result dot join. Here join method is very important. Every time we use it in join, we just pass the connector as a empty space. This will return us as a string. Okay, so we have this logic. We will check this logic inside our browser. So what we can do is, I'm just copying this logic. I have opened browser, and in this browser I will open our developer tools, and in developer tools in console I will paste that logic. Okay, so this is the function reverse. Okay, then if I just call this reverse, then it is showing this function as we have put down over here. And now to check that, we can call this function, pass some string inside it, let's say a b c d e f, and we are getting output as you can see over here. Okay, so this function is working properly. So this is the simple example. Let's go for the next example. So the next example will be a little bit tricky, and you will understand how we can control the iteration of the loop. So in the second question, interviewer will give us some input string. So if you look at this input string, you will find out some pattern over there. Okay. So if you look at the string, you will see there is occurrence of A one after one. There is the three simultaneous occurrences of A, then B three times, then H two times, then T three times, then R two times. I suppose there is again occurrences of A, let's say four times. Then interviewer will expect us to process this data and create output, in which the output will be the string, but the string will have information like a3 b3 then h2. Since you can see there is occurrences like h occur two times, then t three, then r two times. Okay, so this is how the question interviewer usually ask, and the motto of this question is that interviewer want to see how you control the iteration of the loop. So in that solution you will understand. So for that we'll create one function, and I will name that function as char count. This function will take string as input, and since we are getting this data as a string, what are the string will be passing, we need to iterate this string. Okay, and we should be iterating this string throughout the length of whatever the string we are passing. So this is the string we are passing, so array will write str.length. If you look at this, it will start from index 0, so from first character it will iterate till the length of the string. So total length would be the whatever the length we are passing of the string. Okay, and every time the index will be raising by 1. Now this for loop will iterate throughout the string one after one, but here we need to understand the pattern and how can we convert that pattern into the string like this. So if you look over here, you will find out that there is a3, so we will be checking for the character and its occurrences. So to find out the character and its occurrences, we need to iterate through those occurrences only. So for that iteration we can use the while loop. Now in while loop we need to check that the current character is same like the next character. So for that, string of whatever the index we are passing this index, okay, is equal to its next occurrence. So for that, the next occurrence would be nothing but the index plus 1, right? So at the first time when our iteration will start a for loop, that is index I is equal to 0. So string of 0 would be the a character, okay, the first one, this over here. Now it will check for the next character, okay. So since this is the index is equal to 0 plus 1 is equal to 1, so string of 1 would be the next character, that is this, that is this a, okay. So in this case we need to keep the track of count. So what we'll do here is that whenever we will found any character in iteration, we will assign the count 1 for this character, okay. So let count is equal to I. So whenever we will found the occurrence, we will raise the count. So count should be plus plus, right? After that, the index should be raised. Now you need to understand the index we will be raising. This index is nothing but the index of the for loop. So whatever the index will raise, we will be skipping that count since we are already iterating through this occurrences. Since index got raised, now what we need to do is that once this while loop go through the all occurrences, we need to store it somewhere. So for that, what we can do is nothing but we can create one array for that. I'll call it result array. Okay. And what are the count we are getting, what is the string we are getting, we will store that into the result array. We'll use push method for that, and in this push method we will be passing two things at once. So the first will be nothing but the character, okay, and the second is nothing but the count for that particular character. So within this loop will keep continue for 0 index, count would be the 1, and it will be checked for the next index, and if the index is the same, it raise the count, raise the index, but the occurrences are same, this will raise it accordingly. Now at condition come where a is where the current index would be the index of this a, and the next index would be the index of the b character. In this case, this loop will skip this while, and that time index would be already raised. So index will be start from the b, okay, and whatever the output will be stored inside the result array. Now in this result array, whatever the output we are creating is in the array, right? So better if we put this result array outside, and what we'll do that now this result array is the array in which we will have the string, the character, and the count of it. So we need to convert this result array into the string. So for that, what we can do, we need to return this result array, and we need to convert it into the string. So for that, we can use join method, and in this join method we'll just connect it with the empty space. Now this is the function we'll be using. We can check output of this function. In this browser I will use developers tool, and as you can see here inside the console, I just put all this logic, okay. Now I'll call this method, and this method we need to pass string as this method, taking string as the input. I'll be passing the input like a, so it is giving count of 2, then r, it is giving count of r is equal to 3. Whatever it is, it will give us the proper string as output, as you can see here, okay. This is the output. So yes, our function is correct, and you can understand here that since index we taking from for loop, but we are controlling through the while loop. This is the important part. Just take this example, practice it. While doing practice, you can create or you can understand by your own way, and this is how you can represent the proper logic to the interviewer.